Hey guys, how's it going? Today I'm going to be making a bowl without a lathe. This is a challenge put on by Keith Brown over at the YouTube channel Rag and Bone Brown. The rules for this contest were pretty simple. Make a bowl, don't use a lathe, and post a scheduled video, now. There will be a link to Keith's channel as well as a playlist with the other challenge entries in the description below. I started this project by basically raiding my scrap bin and getting a couple scraps of 2x4. Once I had the long one cut down to size, I began to spread out some glue on each 2x4 piece and clamp the bowl blank together. The next day I came back and removed the clamps. I then took a piece of plywood that I had cut down to fit inside my table saw tracks in a previous project and screwed it into the center of the bowl blank. I put the blank into the saw track, turned on the saw, raised the blade, and slowly pushed the blank into the blade. Once I heard it making contact with the blank, I held onto the runner and rotated the blank in place. This will begin to turn the blank round. Once I was at the point where the 90-degree cut was completely round, or at least where the blade would reach, I beveled the blade to a 25-degree cut and began the process again. This was a fairly long and dusty ordeal, but the process definitely worked for me. As far as I know, this is a bit more of an advanced technique. This is also the first time I've done this, so I could be doing it completely wrong. All I can say is that if you are uncomfortable with doing this technique, maybe try something else. There are many ways to skin a cat, and you should always be safe in your shop. I took the blank over to the bandsaw to cut the remainder of the excess 2x4 off. Unfortunately, the blank was a little bit taller than my bandsaw can handle, so I wasn't able to get all the way to the edge of my bowl. So I broke out the oscillating saw and cut out the rest of the excess with that. After that, I swapped the belt on my sander for an 80 grit belt and cleaned up the outside of the bowl. Once that was done, I took it to my drill press and cleared out a good chunk of the waste with an auger bit. I then brought it over to my workbench to begin to chisel out the inside. Realizing this would take forever to do this way, I broke out my trim router and tried to clear out the center with that. Then I realized that that also wouldn't work with the plate being square and a round hole. So I took my 1-inch straight bit and threw it in my drill press at its highest speed and made myself a milling machine. I'm actually super happy with how this worked out. I was able to get the bottom of the bowl to a consistent 1/2 inch thick. Once I had the center of the bowl cleared out, I couldn't avoid the chisels anymore and began to clear out the sides of the bowl, starting with a 5/8 inch thick chisel to do the rough clear out and a 1/4 inch thick chisel to do the cleanup. Sanding was a bit of a pain. I had the belt sander for the outside, which worked supremely well with the 80 grit. The inside, however, was a little bit more of a pain. The random orbit sander worked well for the bottom of the bowl, but not the sides. I didn't have a high enough grit sandpaper to properly do the sides with the palm sander. The flap disc was just a little too aggressive, and it burned up the sides of the bowl where I had tried to use it. Unfortunately, that left me with the oscillating saw, with the sanding attachment. This took a lot longer to use, since the oscillating saw really doesn't move a whole lot, it just kind of vibrates in place. So it took longer, but this ended up giving me the best finish. Once the sanding was done, I noticed a couple places where the initial auger bit went a little deeper than intended. So I got some sawdust from the belt sander and mixed up a wood filler with some of the sawdust and wood glue. Pro tip from a newbie: wood glue is a little bit of a pain to sand out. Try and minimize the amount of good wood you are spreading this onto. Yeah, once I had the sanding done again, I gave the bowl a coat of mineral oil. Overall, I'm happy with this project. It turned out really well, and it was definitely a learning project. As there always is with learning projects, there's a few things I'm not completely pleased with, but what are you gonna do? It was a learning project. I hope you guys check out the rest of the Challenger videos. Thank you to Keith for hosting this challenge. Thank you guys for watching. We will see you in the next video, and have a good one.